All right. So the article that I chose to do was static progressive splinting versus dynamic splinting in post-traumatic elbow stiffness. So a couple introductory points. The elbow is prone to stiffness after trauma. I think that's pretty universal across the board when you're talking about a body part that has experienced some sort of trauma. And trauma can be to the bone, to the muscle, tendons, ligaments, any part that is going to allow the elbow to move. 12% of all post-traumatic elbow injuries end up with a flexion contracture requiring surgery. And ADLs are going to be impacted anytime you have a decrease in range of motion or something that's kind of knocking you off your normal routine. And most ADLs can be accomplished with 100 degrees of elbow flexion and forearm rotation. And for individuals who are suffering from extreme elbow stiffness, treatment can be done either operatively or non-operatively. And if someone does choose surgical intervention, it can either be done open or arthroscopic. So if someone were to choose the surgery route, surgery, like I said earlier, can be performed open or arthroscopically. Both techniques are comparable more or less, and they have comparable success rates. And usually it depends on what kind of contracture or deformity that a individual has, which will determine what kind of treatment and what kind of surgery they choose. Like any surgery, there's a risk of complication, and the risk will increase with the extent of the surgical procedure. So in most circumstances, if arthroscopic is an option, most will choose that route just because there's less cutting and less chance of infection. So for the individuals that choose the non-operative treatment, there are a couple different types of treatment. There's physiotherapy, which is your stretching, passive active range of motion, just trying to elongate those muscles and allow for some increase in range of motion. Corticosteroids, these can either be done with cortisone shots or like pill form, anything that's going to try and decrease that inflammation and increase some sort of range of motion. And then lastly, there's splinting. So this is what this article focuses a lot on, and static progressive splinting. With static progressive splinting, you're basically splinting the individual in the direction that needs the most improvement. So this is providing a stretch in hopes to increase range of motion. And with static progressive, the elbow is in a fixed position. So that means that while the elbow is in the splint, there is no movement of the elbow joint. And with that, there is risk of causing more stiffness because the elbow is just sitting in one spot. So these types of splints can only be worn for certain amounts of time a day. So in the study, it talked that like one of the smaller studies, that the individuals were in a static progressive splint for 30 minutes every 1 to 2 hours. So they were on for 30 minutes and then they were off. This protects the body from developing any more stiffness than is already there. And dynamic splinting provides a constant pressure in the direction of flexion or the extension contracture, while allowing for functional elbow movement. And with this type of splint, you can wear it for a longer period of time because you're not in that fixed position. But it still is recommended not to wear it for a 24-hour day. So either wear it while you're awake and moving or while you're sleeping. And same goes with the static progressive splinting. A lot of times you'll see these people wear the splints at night because they don't need function of that arm. So in the study, the objective was to find out if static, progressive, or dynamic splinting showed better results. And it was a systematic review, so there was 8 different individual studies inside this one big review. And there were 232 patients, which means there was 232 elbows. And 231 of them were a post-traumatic trauma injury, and one was a burn victim. And there was 160 patients that wore the static progressive splint, and 72 had dynamic splinting. So the results from the study, one thing that was limiting in the study was that it didn't necessarily say how long each individual person was wearing the splint, and it didn't really even give much of an average length of time. It kind of touched on a couple in particular, but there was no like average time worn. But for the static progressive splinting, the pre-splinting range of motion on average was 72 degrees. And it improved to 108 degrees after splinting. And for the dynamic splinting, pre-splinting range of motion was 63 degrees. And it improved to 100 degrees after splinting. So some conclusions, like you saw on the last slide, the average increase and improve of range of motion was about the same. So choosing which type of splint, there isn't really, at least from this study, one splint that's better than the other. And that the splint choice should be made on an individual and case basis. So whatever at that point in time is going to be best for the client is the best splint to choose. And with the OT and OT application, I think first and foremost, it's giving OTs more options, because say you put someone in a static progressive splint and they're not having success. This study allows you to then try the dynamic splint without losing what you've already done, and vice versa. And the functionality. I think, someone in a static progressive splint, they're stuck and locked in that position. And if they can get in a dynamic splint without causing more damage, you're not limiting their range of motion with what they do have, and allowing them to participate in daily activities and doing what they need to do. And lastly, the article did talk about other interventions, and I think that's important, because splinting isn't going to be for everyone, and you might have a patient that you try a static progressive and a dynamic splint on, and they're not having good results. So having different options is really important, and that study talked about that, and I think that's really important. But overall, I think this is something that, especially if anyone ends up in a hand clinic or doing ortho, this is something that I think, will be seen a lot, and it kind of is going to give us options down the line of different modes of treatment if we run into a tough situation down the line. And here's my reference. Thank you.